All right, so diving into the whole issue of Trump's deceptions and the war against Iran, it's like really intriguing how Brian Berletic, a former Marine and international relations expert, lays out that this war was in the planning stages long before
Yeah.
Trump's time. It's like his argument suggests Trump's diplomatic moves were mostly a facade.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, hearing someone with military and international relations experience challenge the official narrative is not something you come across every day.
Absolutely. And there's a whole layer to it. Berletic claims that the war against Iran has been deliberate, pre planned, even for years, and that Trump's actions were less about genuine diplomacy and more about orchestrated
Right.
deception. That's a heavy assertion, wouldn't you say?
It really is, and it shifts the entire conversation about US foreign policy. I mean, if we start questioning if diplomatic overtures are simply strategic bluffs to get to war, that changes the game entirely.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, if you're in a chess match, but one side is making moves that are all
Yeah.
premeditated long before the final game. It makes you wonder, what's the real end game here?
Mm-hmm. And I'm curious about how does Berletic back up his narrative? Did he give any concrete historical or strategic examples that might lend weight to his views?
Well, he hints at a long pre planning period. It's like unclearly laid strategies that were always on the board. I mean, if you look at US actions over the years around Iran, certain quotes or policies might start adding up to support the idea that, well, there was a deliberate drive rather than spontaneous volatility. But yeah, some of the detail
Exactly.
is a bit general, I think.
Yeah, that's my thought too. I mean, while his assertions are compelling, they do leave a bit to the imagination. I'd like to see more clear cut evidence or a detailed timeline, especially from someone with his background.
Indeed.
Wouldn't you agree?
For sure. And what's interesting too is that his narrative also implies that Trump's public diplomacy was essentially engineered to mislead both domestic and international
Yeah,
audiences. It's quite a critique of modern political theater, if you ask me.
definitely. And on one hand, it's an audacious claim to say that diplomatic efforts are just deceptive tactics. On the other hand, we've seen many instances before where political leaders have used diplomacy as a strategic maneuver.
Right.
It's not entirely new. So could we be looking at this as just another chapter in a long history of political subterfuge?
That's a great point. It's like if you consider the whole Cold War narrative, where nearly every diplomatic gesture had a double meaning.
Yeah,
Trump's approach could be seen as a modern echo of those tactics, but Berletic makes it sound exceptionally planned, almost like a script that was written years in advance.
true. And one of the most compelling aspects is that Berletic's perspective is coming from someone who's been there, both in the military and on the ground in international affairs. That credentials add a lot of weight. But do you think there's a risk of
Absolutely.
confirmation bias in his narrative?
Yes, there is that possibility. It's like, when you're deeply involved in a particular worldview, it's easy to find evidence that confirms your suspicions.
Yeah,
I mean, his military background might push him to see strategic brilliance where there might be more chaos at play.
exactly. It makes one wonder if, perhaps, some of these interpretations are influenced by a personal or institutional bias. Yet, the overall idea that the war against Iran has been a long conceived strategy is definitely something that needs deeper consideration.
Right. And then you have the medium through which this is delivered, a YouTube video on Glenn Deason's channel. That wider distribution means these ideas are getting disseminated to a broad audience, which could be both insightful and
True.
problematic. The viral nature of online videos often means these complex topics get simplified into a single narrative.
Yeah, and I'm curious about how much nuance can be effectively communicated in a video format like this. It's probably challenging to compress such a detailed argument into a digestible video. And
Absolutely.
sometimes nuance gets lost in the process, right?
Exactly. Sometimes the medium can drive the message in ways that might oversimplify the debate. Yet, on the flip side, it also opens up the floor to global discussion. It's a double edged sword for sure.
And let's not forget the timing here. This video seems to be posted recently, with a lot of viewership and engagement. That indicates there's a real appetite out there for these kinds of counter-narratives against mainstream
Yeah.
political stories. It really adds fuel to the debate, don't you think?
Definitely. It's like when you're watching a political thriller, except the stakes are real geopolitics. The video's title itself, Trump's Deceptions and War Against Iran, hints at both a scandal and a redirection of public opinion.
Exactly.
It poses a direct challenge to what many assume to be a conventional narrative.
But here's something I wonder. While it's compelling to think of Trump's moves as deceptive, isn't it also possible that some of his actions were reactive to a complex international situation rather than a premeditated
Yeah, that's
plan?
a fair point.
I mean, multiple factors usually contribute to foreign policy decisions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's always that complexity. It's like while Berletic argues for a purely strategic deception, real world politics often involve a mix of deliberate intent and unpredictable circumstances. In that sense, it might be a bit too simplistic to pin everything on a singular, long planned agenda. That's where the critique
exactly.
can come in.
Exactly, I'm with you on that. It's important to question, but also to maintain that the dynamic nature of international relations sometimes defies neat, preordained scripts.
Right.
So while Berletic's arguments are powerful, we should be careful not to discount the possibility of unforeseen variables.
Yeah, it's like you might have a plan, but if the conditions change, say, due to unexpected diplomatic pressure or shifts in alliances, the whole strategy might need to be rethought on the fly. And positions like these, while
absolutely.
provocative, must be analyzed through multiple lenses.
Speaking of multiple lenses, I think it's also interesting to consider how the audience interprets these narratives. For some, it reinforces a skepticism toward established power structures. For others, it might sound like conspiracy theory.
Right.
It really depends on your starting point, huh?
It does indeed. And that brings us to the broader question. How do we balance healthy skepticism with the risk of falling into complete cynicism? It's definitely a tightrope walk.
Exactly. You know, it's like if you start thinking every diplomatic move is a deception, you might end up with a blanket distrust that undermines legitimate policy efforts. Yet a bit of skepticism helps keep power in check.
Yeah, true.
That's where the dialogue needs to be nuanced.
And I find that the video makes us participate in that dialogue. It triggers debates about not only US foreign policy, but also about media narratives and what gets amplified.
Absolutely.
It's a call to look a little deeper into the information we receive.
Right. I mean, thinking back, it reminds me of previous eras where deceptions at the highest levels turned out to be truths in disguise. But also, many times, the truth is a mix. A bit of smoke and mirrors amidst
exactly.
genuine strategic planning. It's messy and it's real.
Yes. And if we consider the broader context, this video isn't just criticizing one administration's actions, it's questioning long-standing practices in international diplomacy. Yet it clearly centers on Trump's maneuvers as exemplary of those practices.
Yes.
It's a fascinating, if controversial, perspective.
Now, one thing I do want to challenge a bit, while the video makes strong claims about deception, it's a bit one-sided. Do you think it might have benefited from addressing counter-arguments or even perspectives from other experts?
I agree. That would have added more balance. It's like, presenting the full puzzle requires hearing the other side too. Without that, it's a solid narrative, but perhaps a bit lacking in the comprehensive
get that.
debate. It risks becoming an echo chamber for those who already agree.
Right, and while it's powerful to have a perspective from someone with first-hand military experience, additional voices might deepen the understanding of these complex geopolitical moves. But then again, the video's format might not allow for that level of depth.
Exactly. The format is a limitation sometimes, Like you have a set time and you need to make every second count.
True.
And in that rush, nuances often get lost, which can be frustrating.
Indeed. And that leads us to think about the broader role of digital media in framing historical narratives. These kinds of videos are influential, sometimes more so than traditional news outlets. It definitely shows how technology alters our information ecosystem.
Exactly. And with platforms like YouTube empowering experts to deliver these opinions directly, we see a kind of democratization of debate where the official narrative gets challenged. It's a dynamic shift in how public
definitely.
discourse is shaped.
And that democratic nature is both exciting and a bit precarious, isn't it? Because while it opens up space for diverse opinions, it also, allows misinformation to spread if not critically examined.
Absolutely.
So the viewer must be engaged and critical.
Exactly right. It adds a layer of responsibility on the audience. You have to sift through a lot of narrative claims, challenge them, and
Yeah,
decide what
totally.
you believe. It's a bit like being your own fact checker in the digital age.
And that, honestly, is one of the fascinating outcomes of this whole case, flagging the tensions between political messaging and the responsibility of the media. It
Indeed.
really leaves us pondering how the stories we hear are constructed.
Exactly. It opens up a larger debate on the nature of truth in modern geopolitics, especially in a media landscape where every claim is instantly broadcast and dissected by millions. And
Right,
that's why discussions like these, even if they challenge established views, are so critical.
agreed. So, in wrapping up, while Berletic's assertions about Trump's deceptions and the planned warfare against Iran are compelling and stir up a lot of debate, we definitely need to approach these narratives with both curiosity and, well, a healthy dose of
Absolutely.
skepticism. It's complex territory, and these conversations help us better understand the intricacies behind the headlines.